and welcome back to my channel. I'm back this week with another video for you guys. But today we're gonna be doing a little review on the brand new BareMinerals Gen Nude Neutral Eyeshadow Palette, which is this one right here. They do have a collection that has 3 of them. There is a cool tones, a neutrals, and a warms. I'm gonna be reviewing the neutral palette today. I'm gonna be putting it on my eye. I'm gonna see how it blends, and I'm also gonna be doing a little wear test for you guys as well as a tutorial. So if you're interested in watching that, don't forget to keep on watching. But if you're not a part of the BaDGal family yet, don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave. And yeah, let's get into this review because I am really excited to show you guys this palette. Alright guys, so first things first, let's get on with the facts. As I said before, this is the BareMinerals Gen Nude Neutral Eyeshadow Palette. This is also $29. So pretty much the description on the back of the package, it says that this is a collection of 6 nude toned neutral eyeshadows in matte, satin, and metallic finishes designed to suit all skin tones, create easy to wear, gorgeous looks that take you from work to the weekend to wow. Now that is one of the things that I love about this palette, is that it is so versatile. As you can tell, you have lighter shades, you have a deeper transition, you do have some shimmers, but you also have this dark brown right here that can work to deepen up pretty much any eye look. I used literally every single shade in this palette and this eye look that you see right here, so you'll be seeing how I use this. And also in this packaging, you get a little instruction manual that tells you how to create looks, which is really nice if you're a beginner at makeup. And also I did want to let you guys know that each pan of eyeshadow has 1.1 grams of product, and the total weight of the package is 6.6 grams, so that is pretty good as well. And yeah, that is pretty much all the facts that they have on the website. I'm now just gonna show you an up close of the packaging itself. So this is the front of the packaging. As you can tell, it tells you that it is the neutral palette, and when you open it up, this is what you would get. These are the 6 shades in the palette. It has a mirror, and each and every one of the shades has names. This is like a matte black. It feels kind of frosted, but it is actually really nice packaging, and it feels very luxurious and heavy, so that is really nice. So now we're gonna be doing some swatches. So we're gonna start off with the shade Mystic. And now this is the shade Sandstone. I feel like those are very sheer when you swatch them. Now this is the first metallic shade. This is a Believer. That is a gorgeous swatch. Look at how pigmented that is. This is the shade Tribe, which is the satin. This is the shade Native. I feel like that's swatched kind of patchy, but I feel like an eyeshadow always shows itself on the eye, not necessarily on a swatch. And now this is the deepest shade, Indie. That is a gorgeous swatch, very deep and pigmented. And that is all the colors swatched. Alright guys, so that is pretty much it for all of the facts and the price and the swatches of this palette. So right now, let's get on with the application part of this video, where I will show you how I put this palette on the eye and how I create this look that you see right here. So yeah, let's get on to that. Well, hello guys, so first of all, when you get this palette, it comes in this little box right here. It reminds me a lot of the Tarte boxes with the black and the lines, and it feels very nice. So I'm just gonna be opening this up, and also the back looks like this, so it looks very nice. And when you open it up, the palette comes right out, and this is the palette. It feels very heavy and nice, which is also great. And when you open up the palette, it has a little film to cover the eyeshadows, and it is actually very nice quality, which is also nice. And this is what we are gonna be working with today. And I'm gonna start off with my Morphe M 504 and the shade Mystic, which is the lightest shade. And for this look, I'm actually gonna try to use every single shade in this palette because, I don't know, I just wanna try all of them and let you guys know how they work. And it has a very nice mirror, so I'm gonna be using this mirror as well. And I'm just gonna pat this all over my lid with my Morphe M504, kind of to set the primer. By the way, if you're wondering how I primed my eyes, you can always check out my last video. In that video, I did show you how I primed my eyes. So I will link that at the top of the screen if you're interested in seeing how I prime my eyes. First of all, first impressions on that one shade. It is pretty pigmented because, as you can tell, this is like a very light, very pale, warm shade. As you can tell, that is the color that is on my lid right now, so it is pigmented and it feels very soft and creamy. And also there was very minimal kickback in the pan, which is really nice. So now I'm gonna go in with the same Morphe M504 in the shade Sandstone, which is the color right next to it. It is like a light pale pink. And so when I dig into the color with my Morphe M504, that is the amount of kickback you will have. So as you can tell, it is not that much and it is not really bothersome. So now I'm just gonna blend this in windshield wiper motions, just as a first transition. Right off the bat, looking at it in the mirror, this is actually a very nice transition shade. I don't feel like you can deepen up the crease with this color, but having this as your first transition shade actually looks very nice. It could be a little more pigmented, but I'm not really mad at it because it is building up nicely and it blended nicely and it did add a very nice transitional definition. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with the same Morphe M504 and the shade Native, which is this color right here. And this one had around the same amount of kickback in the pan as the previous shade, so that is nothing new. And I'm just gonna put this on my crease, kind of building up that transition, and I'm blending it as I place it because that is how I always do my eyeshadow. And first impressions, it is blending very nicely into the shade Sandstone. It looks blended right off the bat. So far these shades are working very well together. I'm just gonna build it up a little more to see if it builds up nicely. It is not really the most pigmented color, but it is building up nicely, so that's a plus. I feel like the colors that I've used so far are so amazing if you're a beginner at makeup because they're so easy to blend, so easy to use. Okay, so this is what it is looking like right now. I wish it would have been a little bit darker because this is the second to darkest shade and it looks darker in the pan than it does on my eye. But I don't know, I feel like the deepest shade in the palette will really bring this look together. So I'm gonna go in with my Morphe M433 and the shade Indie, which is the deepest shade. And this one has a little less kickback than the other colors. And I'm gonna put this right on the sockets of my crease. As you can tell, when I placed it on my eye, it does not look like this color at all. Yeah, guys, I don't really know how I feel about this shade. I don't know. These two top shades were nice, but these two bottom shades are just not impressing me right now. I feel like they don't show up that true to color. I feel like the shade Native shows up more true to color than Indie. I don't know, and I feel like this color is not blending that nicely into Native either. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with our Morphe M504 in the color Sandstone. I'm gonna put it right on top of that crease to see if it brings back a little bit more of that pink. Okay, so as you can tell, when I put that pink down, it legit looks white. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move into the shimmer shades. I'm gonna go in with my finger. You know, actually I'm gonna use a brush because I know most people use brushes for their eyeshadow. I'm gonna go in with my Sigma E57 in the shade Tribe, which is the darkest shimmer shade. This one doesn't have much kickback. I'm gonna use it dry to see how it looks. Yeah, that's not showing up. So I'm gonna use my finger because I feel like shimmer shades always look better on the finger. I mean, that is not bad. I'm gonna go in with my Morphe M433 and I'm just gonna blend out the edge. And now I'm gonna go in with just a packing brush. I'm gonna grab some more of the shade Indie, which is that deep brown shade. I'm gonna pack it on the outer corner. I'm gonna go back in with the shade Tribe, which is that shimmer shade, and I'm gonna re-intensify the shimmer. So I feel like after blending out the shimmer, it completely went away. So I'm gonna go in with my finger again in the shade Believer, which is this one right here, the lightest shimmer shade. Put this in the inner third. That's better than the other one. Okay guys, so this shimmer shade is definitely much better than the other shimmer shade. I do like this one a lot. Okay guys, so this is what the eye looks like with every single eyeshadow on this palette used. I do have to say, I do like the shade Mystic, which is this one. I do like the shade Sandstone, but the shade that I really liked the least in this palette is the shade Indie. This color looks beautiful on the pan. When I swatched it, it looks super pigmented. It looks brown. It looks beautiful. I was super excited to use that color, and as you can tell, it just looks great. I just feel like overall, after doing my eyeshadow, it doesn't look blended, and it looks like I literally went in with a gray eyeshadow with a really bad brush and just put it all over my eye, and that is not the look I was going for. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my liner, mascara, and I don't think I'm gonna wear lashes today because I do want to see the eyeshadow, but I'm gonna do liner, mascara, and I'll be back to do the lower lash line for you guys. Alright guys, so I put on some mascara. I think that's all I'm gonna do for mascara and liner and all this stuff because I really want you guys to see what the shadow looks like. And I'm just baking my contour, so we're gonna get to the under eye. I'm gonna go in with my Sigma E34 and the shade Native, which is that cool toned first transition brown we used. And I'm gonna put this on my lower lash line. And now with the same Sigma E34, I'm gonna go in with the shade Indie, which is the deepest shade, and I hope it does show up a little bit more on my lower lash line. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. And I'm gonna put this on the outer corner of the lower lash line. I feel like I'm having the same issue that I had on the top. The only problem I have is that it's not the same color that I'm seeing in the pan, and that is the thing that's bothering me. And now I'm just gonna go in with some Benefit BADGal Bang Mascara. This is the same mascara that I used on my top lashes. I'm gonna put this on my lower lashes. I'm gonna kick off the bake, and then I'm gonna be back to tell you guys my final first impressions on the palette. Alright guys, so I just finished up my makeup, and right now it is 5:26 in the afternoon. But I did want to let you guys know that I already had my eyeshadow on my top lash line ever since 3:30. So I've had my top eyeshadow for 2 hours already. So I am gonna be counting that time, but I just put my lower lash line in around 10 minutes ago. But I do have to say, for my first impressions on this eyeshadow palette, I am not obsessed with the palette as I thought I was going to be. When I first bought this palette, I didn't really swatch it at Sephora. I literally just saw it, picked it up, and I was gonna review it as a first impressions on my channel. I was so excited to try it. The colors are amazing. You can create so many looks with it. It is not that extremely expensive, but it feels very nice. It feels very heavy. It feels very just luxurious, and I really like the presentation of the palette, and the shades swatched amazingly. But after putting it on my eye, I don't know, I'm just not crazy about it. But you know, for my first impressions, I'm just gonna start off with the positives. As you guys saw, I did like the shade Believer, which is this shimmer shade. Is it the best shimmer shade in the world? No, not really. I mean, it could be a little bit more reflective, but it is good. I like it. I also like the shade Mystic. I wasn't upset as Sandstone. I feel like it is a little bit too light for my skin tone, but if you have a lighter skin tone, this can be a really pretty transition. It did work as a transition for me, but I wouldn't wear it alone because it is just too light. I wasn't crazy about Native, so pretty much I liked 3 out of the 6 shades in this palette, so that'll be around a 50%. And now I also like the packaging. I like the mirror. I like how it feels nice, and I like the box that it came in, and it also has this instruction packet, which is really nice if you're a beginner at makeup. But now I did have quite a bit of negatives with this palette, and it is mostly with the 3 darkest shades in this palette. I feel like the shade Native was alright. It is not a bad color. However, I don't know, I'm not crazy about the color. I wouldn't reach for it as a transition, but it is also not dark enough to deepen up the crease either, so I wouldn't really use that color. However, I feel like that's completely personal preference. If you like a more cool toned neutral brown, you will love this. I don't know, I just feel like it didn't do enough. I thought it was gonna be a little bit darker. Like, as you can tell, this is not a very light color, and on my eye it was super light, and it blended nicely, but it's just, I don't know, you can see it in my upper crease right now. It just doesn't look flattering. It just looks like I don't know how to blend my eyeshadow, even though I spent like literally 20 minutes blending my eyes, and that is mostly why I don't like that shade. And the shade I liked the least in the palette is the darkest shade. And now when you swatch this shade, it looks beautiful. It looks stunning. When you look at it in the pan, it looks like a beautiful shade to deepen up the crease. But when you put it on the eye, it this color doesn't transfer, and it didn't blend into the shade Native either. It kind of just sat there. It is pigmented, but it is pigmented in a color that I didn't buy. And that is why I feel like you always need to try eyeshadows on your eye if you want to know if they work. Because for example, with this palette, it's swatched amazingly. The swatches are beautiful, but once you put it on the eye, it is not the worst palette. It is not a horrible palette, but it is just a little bit underwhelming. That is pretty much my take on my first impressions on this palette. As I said before, it is almost 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm gonna be doing a little wear test for you guys, so I'll see you in around 6 hours to tell you guys if it transferred, if it went away, if the shadow lasts on the eye. And yeah, I'll see you in 6 hours. Well, hello guys. So right now it is 11:35 p.m. So it hasn't been quite 6 hours since I did my last check-in. However, I did put my eyeshadow on my top lash line almost 8 hours ago. So it's been kind of like a long wear test. And I do have to say, I like how the eyeshadow still is on my eye. I do have to say the deeper shade is not as deep as it was when I first applied it, but it is nothing extreme, nothing that would be a deal breaker. And the shimmer shade did transfer up onto my crease a lot. As you can tell, there's a bunch of that shimmer shade right here, and I didn't really place it there, but I feel like that's mostly because of my eye shape, and you can still see the shimmer shade right here, so it is not like it completely disappeared. So I feel like these shadows actually did pass the wear test. Is it the most long wearing eyeshadow ever? I don't think so. I feel like there's other eyeshadows that I've tried that last a longer amount of time, but it is not horrible. It is not the worst I've ever seen. My final thoughts on this palette. I have to say it is not the worst palette ever. It is not a horrific palette. However, I am not very impressed. It is not wowing me, and with all of the eyeshadows I already have, I don't feel like I'll be reaching out for this palette anymore. I just feel like the one shade that I was really excited for, the very deep shade, I think it was called Indie, it just didn't work for me. And I feel like on the pan, the shadows look one way, but when you put them on the eye, they look completely different, and that is not what I am looking for in an eyeshadow. I need them to be consistent when I swatch them, when I wear them in a brush. I just feel like these shadows swatched so amazingly, and when I first got the palette, I was so impressed with the pigmentation with the swatches, but I just feel like that pigment doesn't transfer over with a brush. And I used it with my Sigma A57 and the pigment wasn't there. I used it with my Actilabs brush, the pigment wasn't really there. And I used them with my Morphe M504, which I use for literally every single transition shade ever, and I just feel like the pigment wasn't there. I feel like the two lighter shades, the white one and the pink one, were alright. I just feel like they were a little bit too light for my skin tone, but you know, that is just a skin tone preference. That doesn't mean the shadow is bad, because those two were actually really good. The shade Believer was really good, the metallic. The satin wasn't as good, which was the second shimmer shade, the darker one. Wasn't as good. I just feel like it didn't really show up with a brush. It didn't show up with my finger that well. The shade Native wasn't that bad, but I just wasn't impressed. And unfortunately, I just don't feel like this palette is for me. But I am speaking only for the neutral palette. I know BareMinerals got a cool tone palette, a neutral palette, and a warm tone palette. I only got the neutral palette, so far for me, I'm not loving the formula of the neutral palette. So yeah, I feel like that is it for this review. It is not the worst palette ever, but it's also not the best, so I'm not gonna recommend it to you guys because it is still almost $30, which is pretty expensive. I don't know, I feel like there's other things that you can get for a cheaper price that are better, and that was just not impressing me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you have tried the cool tone palette or the warm tone palette, or even the same neutral palette, and let me know what do you think of them. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel before you leave. And yeah, I will see you on my next video. Bye guys. Bye.